let's talk about changing the synthesizer inside of a patch. So we'll go to a good default, like this default. And here's what it sounds like normally. Let's talk about these synthesizers. That's extremely boring. But I have a couple of synthesizers here that I made up, some of which I will ship. Here, I can make it even more boring. Well, let's figure out what makes that boring. You might not be able to read it, but this says sine 17.1, sine 17.1, sine 1.1, sine 1.1. And from Z0 to C5. Basically, let me flip this into moveset, you get a bit of a visualization. You can barely see it, but here there's a line on the side. That is the area that we've rendered on these strings. Let me drop this down here so that you can get a bit more of an idea. Here's the area that's called the transition area for my synthesizer. Everything below here is in one state. Everything up here is in another state, and this transitions between those two states. And those states are really just two sets of wavetables. And we have an attack wavetable. It lasts for this long. And then that is seamlessly merged into the decay wavetable. Normally, you want a lot more harmonics in your attack, just like a real string. Sometimes you don't. And you want to have something boring in your sustain. And often you want more harmonic material in your bass notes than you do in the treble notes. Because in the treble notes, they just tend to alias out, and you don't really hear them anyway. And in the bass, you sort of need them to define what your bass notes sound like. So I have a whole lot of wavetables that you can pick from. Ideally, I shouldn't have any wavetables. They should all be calculated on the fly and used that way, and maybe the next synthesizer will do that. But I got lazy and I figured I could just load some wavetables. Most wavetables are just one wave in them, but some of them do not, like the wobbles. They have like 16 waves or 8 waves in them built in automatically. That means that the wavetable does change its frequency a little bit, and you can hear that when you actually play one of these. Let's see here. So it puts a little wiggliness in it. Now suppose you wanted to go and pick your own wavetables here. Just tap on one of them. Oh, so this is the range in between where these two tops and bottoms are interpolated. And if they're exactly the same, nothing really interesting happens. But you could make it so, let's make this more obvious by setting that to be like a G2 to a C3. So now the range of where this is pretty close, and I can make the bottom. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Here are the list of all of my wavetables, which are really bad. Let's make this one a kind of formanty one. And we'll make this other side another formanty one or something like that. Yeah, something like this. So now the bass has got all these formanty kind of waves. They tend to alias a lot. Here's what happens when you make the attack time really slow. Takes a long time for it to transition. This is it's a little more natural if you don't do it quite that much. We've got a bunch of other presets that also have terrible sounds in them. Usually I stay with the simple timbres because the interesting stuff for me is happening in the chords, and I don't want to be confused by putting complicated timbres on top of my chords.